HOA Karen Bend. Grandma from her porch didn't know my aunt runs the DOJ. The scream cut through the quiet suburban street like a knife through butter. Get off my property, you old hag. Karen's voice was a venomous screech, her manicured finger jabbing toward the elderly woman perched on the porch next door. Every neighbor on Maple Lane froze, curtains twitching, as the queen of complaints unleashed her latest tirade. It was a warm June evening, the kind where kids rode bikes in lazy circles and fireflies began their dance. Maple Lane was a postcard of small-town charm, neat lawns, white picket fences, and a sense of community that had held strong for decades. At the heart of it was Grandma Rose, an 82-year-old widow whose porch was the unofficial gathering spot for the neighborhood. Her wicker chairs, adorned with faded cushions, had hosted countless stories, shared lemonades, and late-night chats. Rose was the glue of Maple Lane, her kind eyes and sharp wit a comfort to all. But Karen, who'd moved into the corner house 6 months ago, saw Rose's porch as a threat to her vision of perfection. Karen was 45 with a bleach blonde bob and a penchant for HOA rulebooks. She'd arrived with a list of grievances longer than her driveway, 2 loud barbecues, kids' chalk drawings on sidewalks, and, most offensively, Rose's unsightly porch gatherings. To Karen, the laughter and clinking glasses were chaos, a blemish on her curated suburban dream. She'd already bullied half the street into compliance. Mr. Jenkins stopped flying his quirky pirate flag, and the Garcias yanked out their wildflower garden after Karen's relentless complaints. But Rose was untouchable, or so everyone thought. Karen's campaign against Rose started subtly. First, it was passive-aggressive notes taped to Rose's mailbox. Please keep noise levels down after 7 p.m. Then came the HOA meetings, where Karen, armed with a clipboard and a smug smile, proposed porch usage guidelines that conveniently targeted Rose's gatherings. Neighbors grumbled but complied, fearing Karen's wrath. She had a knack for making life miserable. Anonymous complaints to the city, snide remarks at block parties, even reporting a kid's lemonade stand for unpermitted commerce. Maple Lane's warmth was chilling under her reign. Rose, however, refused to bend. She'd lived on Maple Lane for 50 years, raising 3 kids and bearing a husband in that house. Her porch was her sanctuary, a place where she shared stories of her youth, her late husband's war medals, and her secret recipe for peach cobbler. When Karen's notes turned to outright demands, no more than 3 visitors at a time, Rose just chuckled, her eyes twinkling with defiance. That woman's got more bark than a dog with fleas, she'd say, pouring another glass of lemonade for a neighbor. The tension simmered for weeks. Karen's complaints grew louder, her voice carrying across the street as she berated Rose for loitering on her own porch. She'd stand on her lawn, hands on hips, cataloging every perceived infraction: a stray leaf on Rose's steps, a creaky chair, even the gaudy wind chimes that sang in the breeze. Neighbors whispered about Karen's obsession, but no one dared confront her. She was a storm, and Maple Lane was caught in her path. Then came the twist no one saw coming. One evening, as Rose hosted her usual crew, Mrs. Lopez with her knitting, young Timmy with his comic books, a sleek black SUV pulled into Rose's driveway. Out stepped a woman in her 50s, sharp in a tailored blazer, her presence commanding. It was Aunt Clara, Rose's niece, who hadn't visited in years. Whispers rippled through the porch crowd. Clara wasn't just family, she was a high-ranking official at the Department of Justice, a fact Rose rarely mentioned. Clara's steely gaze swept over the street, landing on Karen, who was already marching over, clutching her phone like a weapon. "Excuse me," Karen snapped, storming up to Rose's porch. "This is private property, and your little party is disturbing the peace." Her voice dripped with triumph, as if she'd caught Rose red-handed. Clara raised an eyebrow, her calm unnerving. "And you are?" she asked, her tone slicing through Karen's bravado. "I'm Karen Mitchell, head of the HOA, and this woman," she pointed at Rose, "is violating multiple regulations. I've had enough of her porch nonsense." Karen's face was red, her words spilling out like a dam breaking. She waved her phone, claiming she'd already called the city to report Rose for public nuisance. Clara's lips twitched, but not with amusement. "You've been harassing my aunt for months, haven't you?" she said, her voice low but lethal. Karen faltered, sensing something amiss. Rose, sipping her lemonade, looked positively gleeful. "Clara, dear, don't waste your breath on her," Rose said. "She's just loud." The neighborhood watched, breathless, as the confrontation escalated. Karen, undeterred, doubled down. "I have every right to enforce order here. Your aunt's porch is a blight, and I'm banning her from using it." She thrust a piece of paper at Rose, an official-looking HOA notice, typed in aggressive, bold font, declaring Rose's porch off-limits due to community complaints. The audacity was staggering. Neighbors gasped, and Mrs. Lopez dropped her knitting needles. That's when Karen's world began to crack. She didn't notice the shattered flower pot on her own driveway, the one she'd kicked over in a fit of rage the night before, blaming Rose's rowdy guests for its destruction. The pot, a gift from the Garcias, was a symbol of Karen's reckless accusations, her tendency to destroy what she claimed to protect. The broken clay pieces glinted in the streetlight, a quiet testament to her chaos. Clara stepped forward, her presence towering despite her calm demeanor. "You're banning my aunt from her own porch," she repeated, her voice now carrying a dangerous edge. "Let me tell you something. Miss Mitchell, I've spent 20 years at the DOJ dealing with people who abuse power. You're not just a nuisance, you're a bully." Karen scoffed, but her confidence wavered as Clara pulled out her phone, dialing a number with deliberate precision. What happened next was a masterclass in justice. Clara's call wasn't to the city or the HOA. It was to a colleague at the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. Karen's campaign of harassment, it turned out, wasn't just petty, it bordered on illegal. For months, she'd been filing false complaints against Rose, citing non-existent violations to pressure her into compliance. Clara had already reviewed the paper trail: Karen's emails, her HOA filings, even her social media rants about cleaning up Maple Lane. Each was a nail in her coffin. As Clara spoke calmly into her phone, outlining Karen's actions, the neighbors began to gather. Mr. Jenkins, emboldened, admitted Karen had threatened to report his dog for barking. The Garcias revealed she'd sabotaged their garden by dumping herbicide on their flowers, claiming they were weeds. Even young Timmy piped up, saying Karen had yelled at him for riding his bike too close to her lawn. The street, once cowed by her, was turning. Karen's face drained of color. "This is outrageous," she shrieked, clutching her HOA notice like a shield. "I'm protecting this neighborhood." But her words fell flat. The broken flower pot, the wilted Garcia garden, the silenced laughter on Rose's porch, these were the scars of her protection. The neighbors, now a united front, stared her down. Clara hung up her phone and turned to Karen. "You've got two choices," she said. "Apologize to my aunt and every neighbor you've harassed, or face an investigation for discriminatory practices and abuse of authority. The DOJ doesn't take kindly to people like you." The weight of her words hit like a thunderclap. Karen stammered, her bravado crumbling. She looked at Rose, expecting a smug grin, but Rose just shook her head, her eyes soft with pity. The fallout was swift and merciless. Karen tried to backtrack, muttering a half-hearted apology, but it was too late. The HOA, pressured by Clara's connections, stripped Karen of her presidency. The city dismissed her complaints as frivolous, fining her for false reports. Neighbors, emboldened, filed their own grievances against her, everything from property damage to harassment. Karen's pristine lawn became a battleground of for sale signs as she scrambled to sell her house, her reputation in tatters. Rose's porch, meanwhile, came alive again. The wicker chairs filled with neighbors, the lemonade flowed, and the wind chimes sang. Clara stayed for a week, her presence a quiet reminder that justice could be fierce yet fair. Karen, once the terror of Maple Lane, was reduced to a cautionary tale, her name whispered with a mix of scorn and relief. As the sun set on Maple Lane, Rose raised her glass. To community, she said, her voice steady. The neighbors cheered, their laughter echoing into the night. Karen's reign was over, her broken flower pot a symbol of her downfall. The street was whole again, and Rose's porch stood as its beating heart. What do you think, did Karen get what she deserved? Or was there another way to resolve this? Share your thoughts.